Internet of Things, software-defined networks, as well as machine learning techniques applied to computer networks. Here to talk about how research is a career and the development of research as a career, Dr. Wilson Tan.
Hey, thanks. May screen na ba ako? Okay na ba siya? Or
Yes, we can hear
yes?
you.
Okay, hi everyone. Gising pa ba kayo mga students? Ang dami nating tao dito. 1,000. Good. Nakakapag-react ba sila? I think so. Anyway, so again, a good morning to everyone. Today, I am here to talk to you about a career path an opportunity that is relatively unexplored and relatively rarely taken, especially dito sa bansa natin. A research career path. But first, sino ba ako na nagkasalita dito? Ako si Wilson. I am an associate professor over at the Department of Computer Science of UP Diliman. I am or was a project leader of research projects funded by DOST, PICARI, UPD, some private companies, okay? I was also a collaborator in projects of DOST ASTI. Actually, very timely na si Sir Wilson Chua yung previous speaker. Around 2019, late 2019, kausap ko siya with some DOST ASTI people. Hindi ko alam kung naalala niya kami. Kasama ko si Bani noon, sir. So, anyway, before that, so hindi naman ako project leader lagi. Before that, I also worked as a researcher, someone who codes stuff for several projects, lalo na nung nasa graduate school pa ako. Both for DOST projects nga and funding bodies here in the Philippines and in the UK. Okay, so yeah, I guess you could say that I have some experience in a research-related career path. My goal this morning is to take you into a tour of sorts, so pasyal lang tayo, into what such a career path looks like, who is it a good fit for, and how would one get started. Okay, so let's get going. I know that most of you, when you hear the word research, this is probably the image that comes to mind. So test tube, beaker, o kaya may microscope, parang ganon. However, believe it or not, a person doing research may also look like this. And this is more or less the kind of research that I would be talking about today. Research in the fields of computer science, IT, and their allied or related fields. So that would include EE, computer engineering, etc. So let us define research. As Merriam-Webster puts it, we have, dami niyang definition, careful or diligent search, studious inquiry or examination, and we have the collecting of information about a particular subject. Fantastic definitions, all of them. However, my favorite definition comes from this guy, yung pagkaka-define sa kanya ni Bertrand Meyer. Pinost niya itong article na to sa Communications of the ACM blog a few years back. So sabi niya, I'm just going to read this. Research is about solving problems. Okay? At least about trying to solve a problem, or more realistically and modestly, bringing your own little incremental contribution to the ongoing quest for a solution. Wow, very grand words, no? Further, he advised, if you are a researcher and do not naturally describe your work in terms of the open problems that you are trying to close, you might wonder whether you're tough enough on yourself. So several things to unpack here, solving problems and then open problems. So open problems nga. Open problems are problems whose solutions are not well known. Problems whose solutions merit investigation and closed study. So for example, just one example, how can we enable reliable IoT, Internet of Things communications in situations where the internet bandwidth is possibly unstable? Diba? So very relevant yung issue na yan dito sa Pilipinas kasi hindi naman laging stable yung internet connection natin. Diba? So itong question na to, itong problem na to, wala pang sagot na straightforward. Ito, under investigation pa siya. So it is a research problem. It's an open problem. In contrast, closed problems are problems whose solutions are already well known. Diba? Solving them would just be a matter of implementing or executing stuff. So kunwari, may lumapit sa inyo. I think we have a lot of BSIT students here. May-ari siya ng pet shop. Wala siyang inventory system. Gusto niya na gumawa kayo ng inventory system. That is not exactly an open problem. Diba? Kumbaga parang, alam na natin kung paano gawin yun. We just have to execute. O kaya, another example, brick and mortar store, gusto nila ng online presence. I am not saying na yung mga solution na to ay madaling gawin. Sinasabi ko lang na may solution na sila. Hindi nyo na kinakailangan mag-research, mag-imbestiga, mag-eksperimento para ma-provide yung kailangan, yung solution ng mga problema na to. So to drive home further what differentiates a research project from, say, a development project, let's talk about outputs, okay? A software engineering or development project would have as its output, of course, software systems. And since we are good software developers, documentation, right? Research projects in general, they're going to have a technical paper output, the one that we see here on the right. The paper is going to contain yung methodology, the details of the investigation, the results, etc. A lot of research projects, especially in computer science and IT, may code bases sila that they also make available online or publicly. The reason for that is for the other researchers to be able to replicate the work. And yes, some research projects do have software outputs. Hindi yun exclusive domain ng mga development projects. So, why bother with research? Ano bang meron dyan? Well, I could think of two reasons, okay? National economic development and personal fulfillment. So let us tackle national economic development first. Research is a precursor, a requirement even, for the development of innovative, high-value products and services. All the companies shown here, Google, Uber, Intel, these guys rely heavily on research. They stop doing research, the company dies. Okay? Some of you might be thinking, yeah, sir, wala namang sikat na Filipino tech company worldwide, pero yung mga company na minention niyo, sir, tsaka yung ibang companies na hindi nyo minention, na multinationals, nasa Pilipinas naman sila. Well, yes, they are. Okay, they are. They have presence here. But you know what? The truth of the matter is, a lot of times, the work that is done here, di ba? They are usually, they're not high value services or processes. They're usually testing, assembly, or some simpler part of the manufacturing chain. The problem with low value, low technology services is that they are easy to replace. You become easy to replace. Another developing country, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, some country in Africa, they could always outbid you or us. Diba? They're going to offer lower wages, mas mura na kuryente, more tax cuts. Diba? And you know what? Historically, they have been able to outbid us. So for example, way back in 2009, no, Intel closed its Philippine operations. Dati may planta ang Intel sa Cavite. Ngayon, wala na yun. Okay? Contrast this to, say, the design operations of Apple, which barely left California. Hence, we have the famous markings on Apple products kung meron kayong iMac or iPod, di ba? Designed in California, made in China. It means that, yeah, sure, the Chinese factories and workers, they may do the assembly, the manual, more menial part of the process, but you know what? The high value part of it, the design, the engineering, those things are still made in the US. And of course, whenever you buy an iMac or an iPod, a large chunk of the money goes to the US. Okay? So even our BPO industry, di ba? Kasi I think 1,000 students, hindi ko may kilala naman kayo na na nagkatrabaho sa BPOs, no? Even the BPO industry, it's not immune to these trends. Okay? In 2017, the Duterte government signed the Train Law into act. So ano yung ginagawa ng Train Law? Basically, Train Law increased the taxes on BPO companies. Okay? Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, that's good. More tax collection means more money for our build program. Okay? But you know what? A lot of BPO companies actually mulled or considered closing Philippine operations because of that. At the end of the day, our world-famous ability to speak clean, intelligible English, it's still not a high-value enough service or product for us to become untouchable or irreplaceable. There are countries that would take on these jobs for a lower price. Okay? And of course, whoever said that we only have to worry about Mexico or India kasi sila yung ibang malalaking countries when it comes to call centers. Diba? So hindi lang sila ang kalaban natin. So, sino pa ang kalaban natin? Okay? You know what? Voice user interfaces, Google Assistant, Siri, Bixby, these systems, while currently they're nowhere near the level of a human agent. Matatanong mo sila kailan ang birthday ni Rihanna or something like that. But they're continuously getting better. I will not be surprised if, well, maybe not the very complex problems or queries, pero for the basic queries, paano hindi umaandar yung phone ko, anong unang troubleshooting step, darating ang panahon, masasagot ka ng Google Assistant ng maayos for things like that. Okay, so hindi mo na kinakailangan ng human agents kung ganun lang kasimple. Okay? Okay, so I am not sure whether you've seen this, but NEDA, the National Economic Development Authority, just relatively recently released this document, Ambition Natin 2040. It is a set of documents detailing what most Filipinos envision our society or our country would be by the year 2040. I suggest that you have a look at it. It's pretty cool, pretty good, and quite inspiring. So for example, kasama doon ito, yun, nakasulat dito. Para sa 50% ng mga Pilipino, dapat na let go na ang poverty. So karamihan sa atin, sana by 2040, nasa middle class na. If we are to achieve these dreams as a country, we have to do better economically. We have to progress from low-value jobs to high-value ones that cannot be easily taken away, like what happened with the Intel situation. We have to stop having people, our OFWs, as our primary export and instead start exporting high-value products and services that would bring the money in while keeping our people here in the country. So yung mga nanay, yung mga tatay, nandito sila sa bansa, pinapalaki nila yung anak nila. Hindi sila nagpupunta abroad, doon sila nagpapalaki ng anak ng iba. Diba? So that we could stop that from happening. For us to be able to do these things, no, have high-value jobs, high-value exports, development, and research, they are necessary. Okay? So, should national progress be the sole reason for pursuing a career in research? No, not really. For some people, it is simply a personally fulfilling job or career path. Research is a good fit for people who are naturally curious, for people who are constantly asking why things are the way they are, people who are excited about the quest for answers. Kung kayo yung klase ng tao na, bakit ganyan? Tapos pag sinagot ka, ang susunod may tanong ka pa ulit na, pero bakit? Di ba? Kapag hindi na nauubos yung bakit, pag ganun kayo yung klase ng tao, maybe research is for you. Also, magandang fit ang research para sa mga tao na hindi lang curious, but want to solve problems. People who want to offer solutions to problems. Then maybe research is for you if you're like that. Remember that quote by Bertrand Meyer, which I shared earlier? Research is about solving problems. Finally, research is a good career path for people who value independence. People who want to have a say on what they are working on or would want to find meaning in what they are doing. Let me expound on this. In a normal software engineering firm, most of them, the company is going to accept a job or a contract, and then the company would assign that work to its employees, possibly you guys. Your feelings regarding the client or the system that you are creating, improving, or maintaining, that doesn't matter one bit. You could hate the company all that you want, but do your work, diba? Deliver the code, you're going to get paid. In a research career path, there are certain jobs, for example, project leaders or principal investigators, who to a certain extent get to choose what they are working on. Note that I am not saying that one type of job is better than the other. Only that for some people, it is not enough to get a good paycheck. They also want to find meaning, connection. They want to be passionate about what they are working on. People like that may want to consider a career path in research. So what kinds of research jobs are out there? Let me discuss 4 here. Hindi ko sinasabi na exhaustive ito. Developers or researchers in projects or research institutions, academia, technology firms, and startups. So let us begin with developers or researchers in research projects or institutions. When universities, for example, UP, when they have or we have research projects, yung projects na yun, kinakailangan ng tao nun. Kailangan mo ng programmer na magpo-program, na magpapatakbo ng eksperimento, etc. Okay? Now, kapag na-hire kayo ng mga project na yun, usually ang position na ibibigay sa inyo ay SRS or Science Research Specialist. Tapos kapag hinire kayo, hindi yun forever kasi wala namang project na forever. Usually mga 2 to 3 years yun. So yes, contractual siya. However, there are more permanent researcher positions in institutions such as DOST or the Philippine Space Agency. Okay, last time I heard, tumatanggap na sila ng mga resumes yung Philippine Space Agency. So mas permanente yung position sa ganitong mga lugar. Let me say something more about these positions kasi kadidiscuss ko lang nung tungkol sa independence diba? I would like to emphasize that when you apply as an SRS or you get hired as an SRS, chances are the project leader already has set activities in mind for you. Okay? Sana walang pupunta doon, sabi ni Sir Wilson sa talk niya, independence daw kapag research work. So ito yung gusto kong gawin. Di ba? Mauutusan kayo ng mga tasks doon. Meron ng set tasks for you when you apply or when you get hired as an SRS1. However, one key difference between a job, say in Ortigas, and working for a project, research project, is that in general, research projects, they tackle nationally relevant issues. For example, you work on Project NOAA, rest assured na yung effort mo sa pag-develop ng system, pagpapatakbo ng mga eksperimento, etc., alam mo na nakakatulong yon sa maraming ibang mga Pilipino. Okay? All right. So academia. A university has three functions: instruction, research, and extension. Let me go through them quickly one by one. Instruction is probably the easiest to explain, pinaka-obvious, no? When you guys attend, and I think we have a lot of students here, when you attend your classes, when your professors teach you, that's the university fulfilling its mission to instruct, na magturo. Extension means society, extension means the university or the university personnel using their expertise to help out society. You're not generating new knowledge, but you're applying that knowledge. An example that comes to mind would be Okta Research, right? Okta Research, although hindi siya official na project ng UP at UST, yung mga members ng Okta Research ay UST and UP academics. In a sense, nag-extension work yung mga yon. Kapag nagda-run sila ng mga models, nagbibigay sila ng mga recommendations, in a sense, extension work yon. And then finally, there's research, of course, which is about the generation of new knowledge, solutions, and techniques. In general, especially for big universities, you will not be able to stay for good unless you have a good track record in all three circles. Okay? Okay, ano na na-discuss ko? I talked about research or in the university or academe settings, di ba? Being a leader, being a researcher or worker. Okay? Bago nyo isipin na ang research work ay nasa DOST or nasa universities lang, hindi yun totoo. Okay? Pwede rin magkaroon ng research yung mga kumpanya. There are companies that definitely do not do research. Example, yung kwento ko kanina, yung mga companies na kukuha ng kontrata or specs, tapos i-deliver nila yung output. Walang masyadong research doon. However, there are companies that do have products, search engines, phones, own software systems, product lines. For those companies, research is important, especially if they exist in a field with intense competition. Si Google at si Facebook, of course, we know them, no? They're very big companies. You know what? They contribute a lot of research to computer science and engineering, actually. Reinforcement learning, halos puro Google and Facebook employees yung bumuhat noon. Okay? So for example, Google has the famous 20% time rule. Uutusan ka ng Google na ito yung mga task mo, pero you know what? 20% of your time, kontrolado mo siya. You define what you do. Pero dapat i-justify mo sa amin na in the future, posibleng makinabang yung company dyan. Isa sa mga pinakasikat na output ng 20% time rule ng Google ay Gmail. Hindi iniutos ang Gmail na we're going to create a new email service. It's not like that. It's actually one employee na hindi siya masaya doon sa email system. Dito ko gagamitin yung 20% time rule ko. Okay? So that gives you the independence factor I was mentioning earlier. Now, we talked about working for the academia and outside academia, diba? Companies or entities, working for the private sector and government sector. Okay? Pero you know what? Hindi lang yon yung options ninyo. With sufficient research capability, diba? You could work for yourself. What I mean by this is starting your own business. Okay? Hindi takoyaki, hindi parlor. Okay? Not just any business, but a tech startup. Now, some of you may be asking, sir, is research really necessary to have a startup? You know what? The answer is no. Okay? You could use straightforward solutions to meet unmet demands. May startup ka na. You could copy the ideas of already existing startups. Diba? Grab, ilan na yung kopya natin ng Grab? Diba? Actually, Grab itself is a copy of a US company. Of course, that would be Uber. So you don't have to be original to have a startup. You don't have to do research to have a startup. However, owning the technology, being the first one to come up with the idea, or better yet, the solution, it does give you and your firm a very distinct advantage. Okay? This is actually a very timely thing to get into. No? Yung gobyerno natin and yung mga universities natin, nagsisimula na silang magising or ma-realize na, wow, yung value ng startups sa national economic development. Kaya ang dami na natin na government events, no? Katulad nitong mga nandito sa screen. And I think for you guys, I think nagsalita ang Cubo yesterday. O, hindi ako naka-attend yesterday, pero nakita ko sila dun sa roster of speakers. So yeah, so very timely ito. I do hope that some of you would get into this. All right. Hopefully, na-convince ko yung ilan sa inyo na a career in research is for you. And hopefully some of you are asking or thinking, how would I get started? Okay, if you are an undergrad student, I imagine most of you are, Diba? The good first step would be for you to try to work on a research project for your final year project. I need to clear up some misconceptions here. Maraming mga estudyante sa college or sa university, yung pinakahuling project nila, ina-assume agad nila, research project to. O kaya thesis ito. The reality here is that that's not always the case. Even in UP, yung final year project namin, hindi laging research project. Diba? Minsan development project siya, hindi siya research project. Diba? So how would you differentiate the two? Well, I gave you clues regarding that earlier. Diba? Anong sabi natin? Research tries to solve or answer open problems. There should be a question you are trying to answer. If such a question does not exist, you are probably not working on a research project. And guys, hindi pwede na yung question ay, kaya ba natin gumawa ng website para sa pet shop? Hindi pwedeng ganun yung research question ninyo. That's not a research question. Okay? It doesn't matter how small the question is, as long na valid research question siya. That's how you got started. That's how we got started. Okay, so paano dun sa mga nakikinig dito na employed na or naghahanap ng trabaho or graduate na? If you're already employed, no, tapos bored ka sa ginagawa mo, see whether there are divisions within your company where you could do more exploratory stuff. Okay, and if you are looking for a job, make sure you ask intelligent questions during the interview. No, who would be defining what you would be working on? May 20% time rule ba sila or ididikta ba nila yung ginagawa mo bawat minuto? Diba? Before you join a company, check these things out. Lalo na kung naghahanap kayo ng research career path. Okay. Tip for everyone, undergrad, graduate, o hindi. When you think about it, research is about extending the boundaries of knowledge. Diba? Nagdadagdag tayo ng knowledge. It's about knowing the things that are previously unknown. Hindi lang unknown sa'yo, hopefully unknown sa buong mundo. We do not want to reinvent the wheel. So bago ka magdagdag, bago mo extend yung boundary, dapat alam mo muna kung nasaan yung boundary. Diba? And the truth here is this, especially for undergraduates. It doesn't matter whether you're studying in the #1 university in the country or the #1 university in the world. For undergraduate programs, hindi naaabot yung boundary of knowledge. Kahit na gaano kagaling yung teacher nyo sa computer networks or sa programming languages, hindi niya na ituturo lahat. Okay? They may teach you a lot, but that's not everything there is to it. Obviously, you need more than that for you to be able to contribute new knowledge. So how would you go about that? How would you do that? How would you get to the boundary? Well, I could think of two things. You could self-study, or you could, of course, go back to school. Go to graduate school. Okay? And since we're on the topic of graduate schools, let me talk about my institution's graduate program, because we do have we have a graduate program. As mentioned, I am from the Department of Computer Science of UP Diliman. Okay, so why would you consider our graduate program, be it for MS or PhD? We have a large, diverse faculty, around